fantastical, so unpredictable, here on the SNL network.
Yes, so welcome on in, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network for another patron feedback show, here to wrap up the Woody Harrelson week, finally, and look forward to the Travis Kelce week coming up in just a couple of days. So excited to do that with a returning patron who is joining us. I believe the last time was on the Jack Harlow episode. So very happy to welcome back James Matthew Andrews to the podcast. James, how are you?
Thank you, John, for having me. Very excited to be here. Last time I was here was Jack Harlow. Last time I was on, maybe you should have watched my language. I didn't. I apologize. To make sure that it doesn't happen again, I have a swear jar here. If it does happen, I will. The money goes to who cares? I give you money and I work for you. That's got to be some kind of exploitation.
Oh gosh, all right. Well, we have a good system going, James. Don't change it. But yeah, no, I appreciate that, and that was a funny blunder back in the Jack Harlow patron feedback show. But yeah, very excited to be with you again and talk about SNL and just have some fun as we wrap up the week and have a nice casual conversation. How are you feeling about the week so far? It's been a crazy week on the podcast. The Hot Take show was interesting. The roundtable was some of the craziest SNL conversations I've ever had. I've been a little bit under the weather since then. I think Andrew Dick caused me to get sick since Monday, but I'm here. I'm doing okay. How are you doing, James?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, this, it's weird. This week was, I think the Woody Harrelson episode, everyone, I think people, don't get me wrong, it was a bit of a show. I think people just make it out to be a bigger blunder than it was because we just came off an excellent run of shows. So people, when you get a really bad show, not even a really bad show, but you just get something bad after what we just went through, people are going to be like, oh, that's the worst. So, but we got, hopefully we can, get back to normal things this week with Travis Kelce. Hopefully we don't have to do any more poop humor. We don't need to have any more arguments about that like we did in the roundtable show. So
I like it. The humor, but
all right.
But I totally agree with you. I think for those of our listeners who are not on Twitter, which I know is probably a majority of our listenership, but if you're not been there, it was chaos. I mean, they, like every SNL fan on Twitter, wanted to burn the world on Sunday morning and fire half the cast, get rid of the writer's room. Like, it was just 1 week. We hit a speed bump. I don't think it was that big of a deal. I mean, since basically the last time we spoke to you, maybe like a couple episodes, give or take, James, the season has been really good. So do you agree?
I think this season, transition years are really, they can be really good, like season 21. They can be really bad, like season 29, season 30. I think this will just be known as a very average transition year. Not great, not bad, but just average. We're still kind of in a turnover. We still have, Jost and Shay. We still have some people that maybe have been there, or maybe we associate with the cast previous that just happened. So I think there's that, but I would say, it's been a good season. It's been a solid season. And I just think that, people just give it or rougher on it because, we're, transition years are just difficult in general, but it's been all right. Nothing, it's not like we have like a Deion Sanders level bad episode. Like it's been pretty all right for the most part.
For sure. I think the interesting season comparison is probably season 31, where it was a really rough start after a lot of cast members left the show. And then around the Jack Black episode, it really turns around. And season 31 sort of leads to a much better season 32. So I think like that's sort of the comparison as far as seasons are concerned. But I think we had like a really strong run. I'm really hoping that we're not on a losing streak now and that like this week will be really good with Travis, which we'll talk about a lot from some of the questions. But overall, was there anything you did like in the Woody episode?
I mean, when you look at what aired, like if I had to look at it from like a normal episode, like uh, no. The short answer is no. But the best thing to come out of this episode is surprisingly, and who would have thought we would say this? The cold open was surprisingly the best part. Just the way James Austin Johnson just delivered the material was all right, but he just delivered it in such a nice way, and it's compared to what happened after the cold open and just everything that we got through the rest of the night. I would say that was pretty enjoyable. I think it short compared to cold opens that we've had in past couple of years, and we had a featured player anchor it, and he was great, and like yeah, for the most part it was all right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm more of a Cola Guard open for this week rather than a cold open, but that's just
Right.
me.
I have to deal with this man. I have to text him. God.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, if you didn't know, James James does some work with us behind the scenes in the marketing team, so we do get to chat a lot. But are you ready to get into some of the questions from this week? We got some really good questions.
I am ready to do this. Best time
Okay.
to do it is when we're doing the stream.
All right. Well, bear with me, listeners, as I'm just catching my voice back. So hopefully I'll be able to read all of your questions. And if I struggle, James will help us out a little bit. But let's take our first question from Monette, who says, given the small amount of people Woody interacted with in this episode, should SNL not rely on repeat hosts or friends of the show and move towards more 1 or 2-time hosts so that the new dynamics can be forged with all of the cast? So, James, what do you think? Do you think we should head back to some old friends of the show that have really bonded with previous casts, or stick with what SNL has been doing a lot over the last couple of years, which is 1 or 2-time hosts?
So I think when having a transitional season, it is very important to have people brought back into this era, because it's more so for the audience than it is for the cast. It's more so that the audience can have someone who's recognizable there and is like, okay, and then having that host work with the cast, just sort of warms them up to the newer people. So I think it is important to have that in transitional year. I will say, however, the returning hosts that we've had this season, not the ones I would have chose. Amy Schumer, Dave Chappelle, Woody Harrelson, just ones that maybe not the ones I would. If I were choosing hosts, I probably wouldn't have done this year. Steve and Marty, even though they didn't work with the cast, I still think that I would say did help, because at least having people just. I mean, let's be real. Steve and Marty, they're geniuses, and even if they didn't interact with most of the cast, just having them there, it just sends a signal to the audience that everyone, that it's all right. I do think that, as we start to work more with this cast, then yes, we should have, more first-time hosts. I think that's very important, especially when, considering this week, we had the discussion on is the 5-timers club getting too big? Like, who are we choosing? We are constantly looking for new 5-timers. There's probably someone who hosted this season already who is going to be a 5-timer. So it's so I do think that having first-time hosts are important. I would say now is the right time to do it. But yeah, go ahead. I have nothing else.
No, that's good. I think that there's two things here. One is, I think you want to build, especially when you have new cast members, you want to build a rapport with hosts. So I think some really good examples of hosts that could come back in future seasons so far from the season are probably Keke Palmer would be great, that they have a good bond there between Keke and some of the new cast members. Austin Butler, I think, was a huge surprise for all of us, and he was great. And then Aubrey Plaza as well. I mean, those were 3 really strong first-time hosts from the season that I would love to see come back, who maybe, hosted at the start of this era that maybe in a couple years would be fun to see again. And I think that, there are certain hosts that probably transcend generations of the show. So, like Tom Hanks is a good example. You probably associate Tom Hanks with the late 80s cast of the show, but he also had some other really good episodes with other people. Steve, same thing. John Goodman, like some of the all time hosts could really transition between eras. And you don't discover who can pull that off unless you give them a shot. Like I always say that, uh, you know, I I never judge a host that has never hosted SNL before. So like Travis Kelce this week, like we don't know how good he'll be because we never seen him. The only hosts that I don't get excited for are ones that were bad previously and now they're bringing them back again. So in the case of Woody, is yes, we probably had a bad fourth episode for Woody, but we also had 3 really strong Woody episodes. So I don't blame SNL for feeling that once Woody's publicist, called in and said he's releasing a new movie, it'd be a great time to get him back on the show, that, they put him on the show. I'm not that surprised about it. So I guess, how I feel is that I don't think you should take hosts from other eras of the show who are sort of, you feel that have had a natural conclusion to their hosting career. But if they haven't, I'm totally open to seeing how they do with different casts, because I always enjoy getting to see hosts at different stages of their lives. So I don't know if that was a clear answer for you, Monette, but I think that there's different elements of what I like between returning hosts and what I like from new hosts. And I don't know that Woody is a perfect example of like what's going to happen every time we bring back a 5-time host.
Yeah, what you said.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you want to read this next question that came in from Caleb Jones?
Yes. To me, it really felt like Chloe was channeling a Kate type character for her cold open impression, and then trying to do a Cecily character impression for her Southern accent in the jail sketch. I think Chloe is very talented, but these both felt like big misses to me. Do you think this could be somewhat because she is trying too hard to channel other people's impression and character skills, rather than trying to carve her own path?
Very interesting question here from Caleb, who basically wants to know about Chloe, sort of feels like she was being a little bit of Kate and then a little bit of Cecily, and, should she be carving her own path? I mean, I said I'm a Chloe defender. I think that Chloe is carving her own path. I think every SNL cast member will always remind us of someone previously. As far as, what I saw Caleb in the cold open, I really felt like after going back and watching the impression that Chloe was doing, I felt like she was spot on. It was really good. I didn't like the accent she was trying to pull off, and it probably was a little bit a la Cecily, where they're trying to play into the archetypes that the cast member usually plays, where Chloe has done this voice before. So I would say like that's something I didn't enjoy. I didn't feel like it added anything to the sketch at all. But I feel like as a community, people just love to hate on Chloe, and I still don't get it, honestly, James.
Yeah, I want to preface what I like Chloe. I like all the cast members. If I didn't, I wouldn't. I probably So I like all the cast members. And I think and I think what's great about what we do here is we can give constructive criticism and say like, hey, like here's how maybe they should have done this. And I think with Chloe is she is doing her own thing. I just think what she does is very narrow, and that's a problem with a lot of our cast, is that they're much more personality type players than they are utility players. I feel like we don't have as many utility players, and Chloe to me is very much a personality player. Now that's not a bad thing, but it just means you're very limited in your capabilities and what you can do. I will say Chloe this week, she's had better weeks. I will say I don't. This week was maybe not one of her best, but that's not to say that she'll have better weeks. She'll have better weeks, and I just think this isn't just her. This has to do with a lot of the cast. Is that you have to broaden them out. You have to broaden them. They can't just do like, okay, you're Chloe, so you're going to do this thing and that's it. Or you're Andrew, so you're going to do this thing and that's it. Like you have to broaden out what they can do, because you have 16 players really 14 if you count out Jost and Che. So you have 14 players. You know, you're only going to have so much. You know, it's
Well,
not like we
I
have.
think, James, I
Go
think
ahead.
she's a victim of her own talent. Honestly, that's the thing. Is like she's so talented and like could do so many different impressions and voices, and she has like the natural ability to be a great impressionist. That it becomes very difficult to find a place to just put Chloe in that simple role. Like I sort of feel that when it comes to utility players, it's not that like being a utility player to me is like baseline SNL. Like there doesn't require much skill. So I don't feel that Chloe can't be a utility player. But I think it's a production choice or writer choice or actress choice of Chloe to then say, okay, this cast member is so talented that we don't want to put her in that utility role. And for us as fans, we feel like maybe we've seen too much personality Chloe and want to see more utility Chloe, which I don't know is all on her, to be honest with you.
I would say I do have to disagree with the sentiment that it's harder to be a or did you like it's easy, it's the easiest thing to be a utility player.
Like I'm not saying it's not like I could just like anybody can walk in there and be a utility
Yeah,
player, but I think most people like who have the skills to get on Saturday Night Live like can be utility players.
I would say I disagree
Okay.
because in my opinion because and I think the best example, and I hate to change topics from talking about Chloe, but I look at someone like James Austin Johnson, who, and again, they're two totally different things. Like let's be real. But I would say in order to be a utility player, you have to hold the scene, you have to ground it, you have to center it in reality. Personality players, very hard to do that. They can, and they can do it maybe in their sketches, but they can't really do it in other people's sketches. I think that's a problem with Chloe and a lot of the other players in the cast is that they can hold their own stuff, but they can't really hold other people's stuff. They can't hold other writers' stuff. Um, so I think there's that. I do agree.
Are you saying that she can't or she doesn't want to? Because I think it's like a lack of want as opposed to a can't. Like I don't know. I like to me that's such, and I'm not arguing against what you're saying, James. I'm just enjoying the back and forth on this because I feel like we just haven't like we never seen it. Like I think what I'm getting from you is that you feel like every time you watch a sketch that Chloe's in, the spotlight is on Chloe because has so much personality, and that what you would like is to see her in a sketch where she's just another person there who's guiding the sketch along and not necessarily bringing the spotlight towards her. Do I understand that?
Yes, and I would like to point out an example of that from this week was the whale sketch that they did. I will say, I love Chloe. I really, really do. I want her to succeed. I want her to have a great career. I will say her acting in that sketch, she was overacting and she really tried to, it seemed like, at least for me, and I talked about it with a few other people and it also seemed from them, and again, everyone has different opinions and I'd like to know what people say in the chat. It seemed like in that sketch, she was trying to make the spotlight on her and her character, even though it was relative, like she was making big, broad choices in the sketch when it didn't really seem like called for. It's a very, it was a horrible sketch nonetheless. But it didn't call for any huge acting choices from anybody. And so I will say that for her, yeah, as you said earlier, that I just think, and again, this has to do with a lot of other people in the cast. They just need to work on, if you're in other people's sketches, how to just play it straight, and just be a good scene partner. And I think that is just something that I feel like that isn't happening
Right.
in this cast. And I would like to, and it's not just Chloe's problem, and but at the end of the day, I really want to see Chloe succeed. I agree. She has a tremendous talent, and I like you said, I don't know whether it's a can't or doesn't want to. I don't know, but at the end of the day, I would like her succeed.
Yeah, look, as far as Caleb's question is concerned, like, will she carve her own path or should she carve her own path? I hope so. I think that, as she continues to stay on the cast and keep growing, I hope to, continue to see her stretch herself and do more things. But I understand. I understand what people are saying. I totally see that when Chloe is in a scene, it tends to be about her. But I personally find, not you, James, but in general, people are a little bit hypocritical about this because there are plenty of other cast members who do exactly what we're talking about, who we all seem to really enjoy it when they do that. But when Chloe does it, it becomes a problem. So it's a little bit of a tough conversation to have.
Yeah, and also there is the added part, and again, I'm not saying everyone does this, but again, I feel like there is more pressure on her because she's a woman. I feel like I would say maybe female players in the history of the show haven't been treated too kindly. I would say.
Oh, they have not, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So that is definitely something to take into factor, and
Yeah, I think we just have to keep in mind that, like, cast members can always get better. Like, it's not like it's, I guess they're, sometimes we'll see it right away. Like, some people are just like not meant for the show. But I think, like, when you have somebody who comes in who has a lot of the skills that Chloe has, there's always time for her to continue to, like, figure it out, get better, and, become and carve her place in this cast. I think she's going to be around for a while. So I think we have to all, like, continue to give her a little bit of grace, in my opinion, to try and figure that out, because I think she's still new.
Yeah, it shocks me she's still in her 4th season. So
right. All right, let's take this next question from our friend Ike Moore. Ike wants to know the hippo sketch, as you said, aforementioned sketch that you mentioned, James. In Ike's opinion, was NBC giving their endorsement of Brendan Fraser winning the Oscar next weekend? Regardless if he does it or not, do you think he would make a fun host for the season finale? So, James, do you remember that Brendan Fraser episode?
Well, there were 2 of them. Both of them really good.
Yeah, I forgot both episodes. Yeah.
2 of them are really good. I have the Charlie Brown sketch is just in the back of my mind pretty much almost every day. Just that visual of just him leading with blood coming out of his head is just like, wow. First, I want to say I did not know that the Oscars were next weekend. So, wow.
Are they next weekend? I didn't even realize it.
I don't know, man. Movies.
Oscars. Oh yeah, Sunday, March 12th. Wow.
Oh wow. All right. Good for them.
We're on Slapwatch.
Oh my God, John. All right. Would I like to see Brendan Fraser host? Absolutely. Like, yes. The finale, I don't know. I don't know if I'd like to see him host the finale. I wouldn't be against it. I like, if he hosts, he hosts. I'm excited. Finale, I don't know. To be honest, if I'm putting my money on anyone hosting the finale, I'm putting my money on the Sandman, because he said he wanted to host this season. Seems like a just solid season finale host. I'd put my money on him. But if Brendan were to host the finale, I'm all for it. So,
yeah, I would definitely be down. I mean, this is what I talked about, like people hosting at different stages of their lives. The last time Brendan hosted the show was season 24 in 1999. So it'll be 24 years later if he did it again. Would love to see it. I mean, he was a good, if not great host. Had some high moments. So for me, there's no reason why we shouldn't want to see him again.
Be fantastic. I think a lot of people would tune in. So I really do hope that they're trying to grab, and I hope he's interested in hosting again. He was on Fly on the Wall, so I think there is interest on his part. So
cool. Yeah. All right. Do you want to take this next question from Blood?
All right. Here we go. 4-7. No. All right. Wrong one. Back when this season began, it felt like that Andrew Dismukes was becoming one of the core cast members, building on his impressive trajectory from last season. being quite visible in the first 2 months in both lead and support roles till the second block of shows ended. Afterwards, he would go on to be severely underused and misused, rendering him completely invisible, excluding the Michael B. Jordan show. That was basically an anomaly for him. I can understand newer players being underused, but why a performer that is consistently proven to show how reliable, unique, and very solid he is? Is it simply clicks as the season continues, showed in many 2 to 3 cast member sketches, or the divisive reaction to his audience testing offbeat sketches in the first 2 months? Examples, Joker or Big Penis Therapy. As the season with him being so underused feels a little bit too safe and samey, and that particular was shown in the star episodes, Woody, Keke Palmer, Megan Thee Stallion. Thanks as always, and keep up the great work.
Wow, that must be a new record for Blood. That's incredible.
I tip my hat to you, sir. I tip my hat.
Unbelievable, but great questions nonetheless. Talking about Andrew Dismukes here. This is definitely my biggest question mark is like, why he's so good? I don't fully get it. I have to think that, he's hired as a writer before he's a cast member. The show clearly likes Andrew. He's been there long enough that they've been willing to keep him around for so long, made him a cast member, transitioned him over to a repertory player this season, and he's had some really good episodes. So I don't think they don't like him, but I just think that like somewhere along the line, along the as the factory is putting out the product along the wheel somewhere, there's some bottleneck that's blocking him from getting all the way through to being on the show on a regular basis. I just don't know if it's that his humor is so particularly unique that hosts don't gel with it all the time as they're picking sketches, or is it that the producers feel like they only want an Andrew themed night once every few episodes, which is possible. For me, my expectation is that at this point, Andrew will remain a part of the cast, but we're just only going to have 3 to 4 Andrew episodes a season. And I think the show is okay with that. And hopefully he's having fun as well. What do you think, James?
Yeah, I think you and I both agree that, I believe you said Andrew's your favorite cast member right now. Is that correct?
He's the one who I would say like is probably giving me the most like natural laughs. Like I don't have to like force myself to be like to find the funny. He brings the funny to me.
Same here. I love Andrew. I think that he is doing what he needs to be doing and nothing. Now, I would like to see him do a lot more. I'd like to see him get more airtime. I'd like to see him prove himself that, as I said earlier with Chloe, that he can be, he can work in other people's sketches and he can be a grounded, hopefully, not maybe, just get as close as a utility player as he can become. I do think that the show likes Andrew. You have to remind, like, Andrew joined the writing staff when he was 22. Like, that is, Colin Jost joined when he was 23. So this is a kid who, younger than Colin Jost, who has gone on, to have a successful career after leaving the show. And so I think, and I don't know Lorne, I'd like to think that he likes having his one, like, he likes having that one person in the cast who is kind of the odd man out, but for some reason they keep. And I do, like you said, I think the show likes him, because I don't know, because I don't work there, but like, as from what I can tell on the screen, and from, I saw his interview with Seth Meyers, he's likable. He's a likable guy. And like the stuff that he brings to the table is good. And I'm not worried for him to be fired, because it's not like, just because of what he brings to the table. And I think I think if you knew when he was coming into the show in season 46, if you just looked at his writing record and like kind of who he was, I think you could even predict then, like, okay, he's going to be this type of player. He's not going to, be, someone like JJ. He's not going to be that player, but he can be this. And as long as he tries to, just be a great sketch player and be someone who can help support other people's sketches, that's great. I'm not worried for him. Would I like to see more of him? Absolutely. Do I think he's coming back next season? Absolutely. Unless budget cuts were to happen, which I don't think so, he's coming back.
I also have like another theory, which I don't remember if I've talked about on here before, but I think the fact that Andrew is kind of a baby face really hurts him. Like if he was looked a lot older, he would be put in a ton of sketches. I think it's just the fact that he sort of looks like a boy. But he's 27 years old, so obviously he's not, but I'm saying he sort of has that look where he's a baby-faced assassin who comes in to do his work, but doesn't always translate to putting him in a sketch unless you have a son or a younger brother or something like that. Like the fact that they put him in the Cologuard sketch as Heidi's husband was pretty good for Andrew. But if I remember correctly, I think they probably tried to dress him as if he's older, in a sweater vest and just stuff like that. So I think I think as he ages, as long as he stays on the show long enough, I actually think that will greatly benefit him.
No, yeah. And let's not pretend that's an Andrew issue. I feel like a lot of our male cast members have that sort of baby face look to them, so, hire an ugly cast member. Hire me. I tower over the rest of the cast.
Oh, stop.
You need an ugly. They need an ugly. Everyone says the SNL cast is so hot. You need an ugly guy. You got to have someone like that in there. So,
all right, you heard it here first.
Next question.
Yeah, let's take this one from Amanda B, who says, what has been your favorite PDD sketch of season 48? Do you have a favorite PDD sketch from this season, James?
I saw this question today, and for a second, I was like, okay, what did PDD, what shorts did they do this season? Because, it's just been I feel like everyone's been talking about their live sketches, more this season, and I don't feel like many have been talking because, again, their shorts have relatively stayed the same, nothing too much, So I had to look it up to see what have they done this season. Nothing really stands out as wow, this is amazing. If I had to pick my favorite, maybe the one with Molly Carney. I feel like that they had an excellent performance in it. I love their delivery, and the PDD guys worked well with them. So I like that. Also, I like Tommy. Brendan Gleeson was great in it, and those two. And then the rest have been, to be honest, I don't even remember this week's, to be honest.
Well, okay. So the two you mentioned were definitely really good. I would say this week's is right up there for me. I really love this week's, the stakeout. And I thought it was just a fun place to go with it. I love that. Like I said, they were part in the office, part out of the office. But I would say those are probably my top three. The one with Sarah Sherman's dad was kind of fun a little bit. Yeah, that one was pretty good. Chelsea. Yeah,
I can't believe there you go. See, I remember really loving that one, but now it's you just reminded me of it. So
I think probably the most underrated story is that PDD shorts have been good this year. They've been just very solid. I think we were just so happy to have them last year because we had been missing that element of the show for a long time. And then now that we're used to having them on a pretty regular basis, we sort of lost the magic of it, but they've been very solid. I don't think we've had any ones that are oh, what was this garbage?
There was a wellness one. I feel that I was this one was kind of iffy.
But it was basic,
It was, yeah. It was. I do kind of agree that with what you just said, that it's kind of there's maybe not a huge tone, but there's something that feels a little lost in there. And I saw someone say, I can't remember who it was, but someone said in Andrew Dick's Discord that that they should try and move it, try and have like a live sketch, or like try to do something like how Franken and Davis used to do. And
Right.
I wouldn't mind seeing something like that. I want to see, we've seen them individually pop up and like little bit parts in live sketches. I'd like to see what all three of them can do together in a live sketch. So maybe that's something to think about. Maybe not. We'll see. But
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would love to see them try new things like we all would, but for me, I think they're doing really great. Like they're a very solid part of the show, and I wouldn't be surprised if we got another one this week with Travis. So I guess we'll see, but we'll start to preview Travis's episode in just a little bit as we get to some of those questions. Let's take this next one from Haley. Haley said, if you could have picked any 5-timer to show up in the Good Nights, who would it have been and why?
let's see. I mean, Buck Henry. I mean, I but obviously I don't know. I was looking at the 5-timers list, and I feel like discussing it this on the round table. It was like, yeah, a lot of these people maybe do they deserve to be on? Like, if you think about what the 5-timers should be, or at least what the show heightens it to be, you kind of think about like, oh man, does blank should they be a 5-timer? So I don't know. I mean, it was a bit gagged, like it was a quick thing. It really could have been anybody. If I had to choose someone who I would have been really excited for, I mean, we haven't seen John Goodman in a while. Would have liked to see him. And even though we saw him last season, why not? Elliot Gould. And that man ages like a fine wine.
Yeah. Also, just like keep in mind, like hosting 5 times in the history of the show right now is like less than 1% of the episodes. So, yeah, it's not like a crazy big deal, but we did have that discussion a lot on the roundtable on Monday, in case you missed it, about like what actually matters anymore and what the fans care about. Yeah, I mean, for me, like if Justin Timberlake had shown up, I would have been very, very excited for that. I know he's polarizing. Not everybody loves all of his episodes and stuff like that, but like I think we can all agree, like he's added a lot of fun to the show when he's hosted many times, have been a part of the show as a musical guest and cameoed and stuff like that. Like even just for him to like show up at like some point between now and the 50th, like would be pretty exciting. So I think
Timberlake.
Who do you think I was talking about?
Well, I was like, wait, who is he talking about?
Did I not say JT? Oh, sorry.
Well, you did, but I thought you were talking. Yeah. This is what our texts are like, all right? It's just me misunderstanding him and me being a complete doofus and him regretting that he hired me as an intern.
I don't regret it. Stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been fun for me. Thanks for the question, Haley. All right, James, you want to take this next question from Curly Joe?
Yeah. Will Chris Rock's live Netflix special that is airing on Saturday night negatively affect viewership for SNL? Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like it hasn't been advertised too much. I feel like there's some advertising, but like for those who don't know, Chris Rock is going to be doing a live special of his on Netflix on Saturday night. I don't think it'll, like, again, because I feel like it hasn't been advertised too much. So I feel like the people who are going to see it mostly are going to be like comedy fans or fans of Chris Rock. And there's a good chance that a percentage of them are SNL fans. So I don't know, but, it is, I will say interesting that, that is also happening that night. So.
Yeah, this is absolute lunacy if you are a fan of SNL and you're going to watch Chris Rock live when you could go back and watch that after the fact. Like the magic of live television where a sketch comedy show is happening and like anything can go wrong, anything can happen. It's like a show that is like insane to produce in a given week, and then they like most of the time produce it flawlessly. Like the magic of also like knowing that like anybody can show up, and like how is Travis Kelce going to be as a host? Like all of these questions you have going into Saturday, like if you're willing to watch it live, you need to, because that's the best way to enjoy the experience. I don't necessarily say like, even though Chris Rock's special is like taping live, that it has like any of the juice that SNL has. It's just simply the fact that it's like, oh, cool. I guess this is happening right now. Like we're watching a live stream of Chris Rock's stand up, which I'm pretty sure you're going to get to see a little bit of that at the Oscars. So I don't know.
Yeah, worst comes to worst, if he wants the viewers, he can always tear up a picture of Chris Rock. I mean, of Will Smith. See, leave the puns to John, because I'm so bad at them. John, as much as I give him hate for it, he's the pun master. He's excellent at that, and I do give him credit for that. So
yeah, well, you're so bad at puns, you could be called Jim instead of James. No,
I'm out of here, dude.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's take this next question from Victor. Victor asks, many thought or would have preferred Patrick Mahomes to host. What do you guys think? Do you have a thought on this, James?
I don't know anything about sports. I really don't. I know who Patrick Mahomes is because I saw his name on anytime I see someone's name trending on Twitter, I just click on it and just want to know if, mostly because I don't know. I click on it and I don't know anything about Patrick Mahomes. I don't know anything about Travis Kelce other than they play football. They Super Bowl was a thing that happened. Do I think he will appear? I feel like from what I've seen, probably. He retweeted the promo that they did on Wednesday. So, there's a good, and if he's not cameoing, he'll probably just be there to show up for support. And, it'd be cool if they did cameo.
Yeah. So let me just give like a sort of like a basic rundown of who Mahomes is and who Kelce is for, non-sports fans. Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback for the Chiefs, and he has probably had the greatest start to an NFL career ever. He has been a starter in the league for 5 years. He's basically gone to the conference finals or semifinals, like the game before the Super Bowl, 5 years in a row. He's gone to the Super Bowl 3 times and won it twice. Incredible. He's having like a better start to his career than like Tom Brady or Joe Montana, like former SNL host. And he's a very big deal, but his personality is like, it's good. Like he's a pretty funny guy. He's been in commercials, but like Travis Kelce, the tight end for the Chiefs, who's been probably the best tight end in the league since Gronkowski retired and was going to go down as one of the best tight ends of all time. He has the personality of a wrestler, like of, a guy who doesn't necessarily have to play the sport to be like a huge name. He has the ability to go into acting, to go into media. Like, so for me, I'm sort of used to SNL choosing the less natural born performer and instead choosing the bigger name. But instead, SNL did something different here, which was choose the guy who was probably better suited to host the show and forgoed the bigger name. So I think this is a good thing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I saw his interview on The Tonight Show when he announced that he was going to be hosting. Like you said, very big personality. So, that's good. And so, that will ultimately help. So I'm excited.
For sure. This next question comes in from Tran Kwong, who wants to know, do you expect Travis Kelce's brother Jason to make an appearance? So they host a podcast together. They played against each other in the Super Bowl. I would totally expect him to show up. I think it would be great, probably in the monologue, perhaps. Something like that. Make a joke, make a comment about it. I don't know that Jason has the... he's a pretty funny guy and people like him, but like I don't know that he has the boisterous personality of a Travis. So I don't expect Jason Kelce to be in sketches, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was in the building, similar to the way that like Eli or Cooper Manning were in the building when Peyton hosted, and those, we had similar things like this in the past. So that would probably be my guess.
Yeah, no, I even though I don't know anything about them, like I did know that like they were competing against each other, I'd like to see him show up, if we didn't get it in the cold open, the first episode with Miles Teller, the Manning, I would have liked to see something like that with those two, or like something like that maybe. But
I would love, by the way,
you
if
know,
they did a Manning cast. Like, I don't think you can do it now because the NFL season's not airing, but it would have been like very fun for them to do that again.
No, yeah. If hopefully one of them has maybe if someone can do a Peyton Manning as half as great as Miles Teller did, then it could be good.
For sure. All right. Next question also comes in from Ike, who wants to know, in honor of this week, who is your favorite athlete host? I have a soft spot for Charles Barkley. Give him his jacket ASAP.
I will say, I was looking at the 4-timers list that we did in December. I will say Charles Barkley was at the top of my list of like, yeah, you should be like, I know like it shouldn't be for everyone, but like, you do like SNL, has a rich history with athletes. So it wouldn't hurt to have an athlete as a 5-timer. And if you look at the list, you see that not much diversity in the 5-timers group. So would also help. And people hate on Charles Barkley, like they always make fun, like he can't, like that there was like a thing in the 40th where Michael Keaton Douglas was like he can't even act. He's hosted 3 times, and like Charles has been a really good host. Like I for an athlete, he's been really solid. So he's maybe my favorite. I will say, although I was rewatching Jason Lee's episode this week, and I was surprised by how good he was. Now, he's also an actor, so there's that, but that also counted.
Yeah, I would say like for me, Peyton Manning, like I know it's a very cold take that his episode was great, but like I loved his episodes. It could be my favorite episode of all time, honestly, that Peyton episode. So I really enjoyed him on the show. I thought Derek Jeter was a fantastic host when he did it. Really enjoyed that one. Obviously, MJ was really great. Trying to think, I have like fond memories of Wayne Gretzky and Chrissy Everett, like watching those episodes. Those were pretty good as well. So we've had a lot of very solid, and not only NFL but all athlete hosts over the years. Even LeBron had a fun episode. So for me, like I try and go into these episodes with thinking they are just pure fun. Like it's SNL's opportunity to do something different. When Fran Tarkenton first hosted SNL, it was like, let's make everything sports themed. And it was just like cool to see like Belushi at the chalkboard, like drawing up plays and stuff like that. Like this is SNL's opportunity to like try new things. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I do think that the JJ Watt episode that that was the previous athlete hosted episode maybe wasn't too great. And I think the reason was because they kind of played into the sensibility. And again, how ironic is that I'm complaining about this, but like we don't know anything about sports, so let's put him in like 5 Disney parodies or something like that. And like
right. Well, we have a whole different writing team. We have a majority different cast than back in season 45. So let's see how this new era starts to do with an athlete host. It could be fun.
Yeah. And again, this goes with any type of host. You want to write to what they're great at and what they can excel in. So take advantage of what they can do, and getting to work with them. And again, like just see if you don't know who they are, and that goes with anyone. See how they are in interviews, see how they act. Do they have any comedic chops? That's the thing that you should really do with every host. And so I think that this could be kind of a rebound for athlete hosts. And I think hopefully it could lead to more, exciting, athletes to come and host. Worst comes to worst, just have him rap like Deion Sanders. That always works.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm very excited for this week. I'm unbelievably excited for Kelsey Ballerini to perform. So that'll be fun as well. The 2 Kelceys together. I think, If you like the Woody episode, I'm really happy for you. I know a lot of us are ready to sort of like wash our hands from what we saw this past week there and move forward to this week. And that's the great thing about SNL is usually like the next bus is on its way and we're going to grab it. And we're moving on now to hopefully another great episode of Saturday Night Live for this season. So I'm very excited to cover that all this week, starting with the Hot Take Show on Saturday night. We will be live right after that episode airs. Back with the roundtable on Monday. Another great panel. Hopefully, we won't do 45 minutes on poo sketches. So should be fun this week. By the numbers next Wednesday with Mike Murray and some special guests. And then I'll be back here in 1 week's time for the patron feedback show. James, thanks for joining us tonight. You were fantastic, as I expected. No swearing. We made it.
Thanks.
Yeah, great job. Anything you want to plug?
I'll be at the nickel and dime shop. Gonna see if they have any quarters there.
Okay.
Let's see what else. I'm barely on social media, but hey, at JMA has Insta, at JMA has TikTok. Hit me up. Say you could work on your puns and your delivery. I need that. Hit me up on there.
Awesome.
Also, plug the Saturday Night Network. Like our post. If you see the really bad looking graphics, it's me. So
I'll stop it.
you can tell which ones.
No, you have to give yourself some more credit. You're doing great, and our whole marketing team is fantastic. So thank you to you and them. As James mentioned, you can follow us Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok to see all of those. Subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Thanks to our listeners who enjoyed this show and for bearing with me. As I said, I was a little bit under the weather, but I'm on the road to recovery, and hopefully by the Hot Take Show, I'll be all the way there. So appreciate everybody's support this week and looking forward to chatting with you all about the Kelces. For James and myself, Jon Schneider from the Saturday Night Network, we will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.